Guns up! Oh shit! I'm gonna kill you all! Faster!
Welcome to episode 101 of Not Just Games. I'm Joey. I believe most of us are familiar with grenades in games and movies. However, many would think grenades are just thrown explosives. Little do they know there are many types of grenades. For example, what is a defensive grenade, or what's a cluster grenade? In this episode, let's explore the theories behind and some details about grenades. First, we have to understand the difference between grenades and stick grenades. Typically, grenades refer to those with an oval, egg-shaped design, and stick grenades, well, come with a stick. Gunpowder was already in military use at the end of the Tang dynasty. During the two Song dynasties, due to wars, gunpowder weapons were developed rapidly. At the end of Northern Song, the Zhen Tianlei was invented. It's an iron vessel filled with gunpowder, with a detonator attached on top. It can be hand-thrown or catapulted. Its explosion will fragment the vessel, penetrating even armors. The Zhen Tianlei is now seen as the prototype of the modern grenade. Today, most modern grenades are oval and do not have a handle or stick. The stick grenade was invented by the Germans in the First World War. Later, with some modifications, it was adopted and mass-produced by China during the Second Sino-Japanese War. After a brief overview of their history, now let's see how they are classified. Typically, grenades are either defensive or offensive. Offensive grenades tend to be high explosives, while defensive grenades are usually frag grenades. Why are they classified into these two categories? It's because they function differently. Defensive grenades are usually designed to burst into shrapnel or filled with metal pellets. They contain less gunpowder than offensive grenades and cause damage by dispersing fragments upon detonation. Do not look down on this shrapnel and pellets, they're horrifying. Its radius is typically over 30 meters. That means a defensive grenade thrown onto an open area 30 meters away from you could kill you before you even realize it had exploded. As an escape from Tarkov, you could clearly see the shrapnel flying and hitting something. If you are unlucky, you might even get hit by one or two shrapnel from your own grenade. It's called defensive grenade because it's usually thrown when you are well covered behind structures or in trenches. While the USS M26A1 looks shiny from the outside, it's also a frag grenade. However, its fragments are hidden in its casing, which is a wound of notched wire. The splintered wire and pieces of the metal casing will disperse as shrapnel upon explosion. Meanwhile, offensive grenades is used when attacking the enemy. It has more explosives and is designed to cause damage with its blast. For example, it can be used when the enemy is taking cover behind a house. The HE grenade in Counter-Strike is based on the US Mk3A2. As the counter-terrorists are on the offense, it would make sense to use an offensive grenade. Throw one of these bad boys into a house and a concussion will stun, if not kill, the enemy. There's a scene in Band of Brothers when they're using a defensive grenade to break into a building. A guy moved too quickly and the shrapnel killed him. If he had used an offensive grenade, even though he would be blasted away, he might have survived the explosion. Of course, offensive grenades can be modified into defensive ones too, by putting a fragmentation sleeve onto them. Basically, a metal shell is slipped onto it, combining high explosion with fragmentation, increasing the lethality of the grenade. Its fragments may even travel more than 100 meters. In an open area, the fragments could take out a crowd easily. Many games and movies like to portray grenade explosions as giant fireballs, but in reality, grenade explosions hardly create any flame, just a lot of smoke. Design-wise, stick grenades are easier to throw and have a longer range. They also do not roll around after they drop, but they are inconvenient, bulky, and have a blind spot. A pull cord is used to detonate a stick grenade. To throw one, you should unscrew the safety cap, poke through the paper, reach in for the cord, pull it, and throw the grenade immediately. The oval grenades are lighter and have an even spread of explosion. I just happen to have one with me. First, remove the safety pin, press on the lever to prevent igniting the fuse. You can even put the pin back in. Just kidding, it's just a plaster model. So, once the lever is released, there's no going back. In the Hong Kong movie Young and Dangerous, Chicken was holding 2 grenades with the pins off and no one dared to mess with him. So now you understand why the protagonists in movies will hold a grenade lever in its place at all costs. Because the lever is the key to detonate the grenade. In games, the same mechanics allows you to keep your grenade even after pulling the pin. During the Second World War, the Japanese used impact fuse grenades instead of lever-triggered fuse. They required a grenade that can both be thrown and launched. They gradually phased out grenade launchers, but some grenades like the Type 97 retained this design. To use it, first remove the safety pin, then knock it with something hard, and then just throw it out. This is just like throwing a small caliber mortar shell. If you don't have a mortar gun to ignite the fuse, just do it yourself, it works just the same. Interestingly, you can remove the stick from stick grenades, leaving one intact. Then, tie them together to make a cluster grenade. From Battlefield 1 and COH, you can see that only triggering the grenade at the center will cause a chain detonation, dealing more damage. In many games, cluster grenades are effective against tanks. In reality, they aren't, since it depends on chain reaction. Some grenades might not go off, and the blast might not be focused. So don't expect it to destroy a tank instantly like in the games, but it could maybe damage a weak point like the conveyor chain, immobilizing the tank. The US Army also has the SOHG, which could be stacked like Lego pieces, combining to form a deadlier bomb. Since it's scalable, it's a type of cluster grenade. Not only will it kill the people in the house, it can literally bring the whole house down. The detonation time varies from grenade to grenade. Some take 7 seconds, some 4 to 5, and some only 3 to 4 seconds. Most stick grenades used in the Second World War took about 7 seconds. Its pro, more time before detonation means a longer range. Con, an enemy can easily press G to throw it back. But experienced soldiers will gauge the distance and hold it for a few seconds before throwing it.
都给我延迟3秒，别一下子扔出去。1。
Of course, this was very risky. You may panic and screw up. No offense, but how many times have you died from holding the grenade for too long? Let's not even mention battling for real. After you pull out the pin, the grenade is no longer your friend. So throw it immediately and don't fool around. To prevent the enemy from returning the favor, impact-triggered grenades are invented. It won't explode even if the safety is removed. You just have to throw it out, and it will explode on impact. However, this type of grenade is not really safe, and bounce throw does not exist in real life. Of course, the Russians even made a grenade with the best of both worlds. They would explode on impact, but if it doesn't hit anything, they will automatically detonate after a few seconds. There are also many anti-tank grenades in games. Most of them are like the ones in Battlefield, which are detonated on impact, damaging enemy tanks with a huge amount of explosives. Other anti-tank grenades may be magnetic or sticky, sticking onto tanks to create a point-blank focused blast. They are usually effective against light tanks or armored cars, but not so much against heavy tanks. They can be used to target weak spots though. Nevertheless, to light infantries, it is better than having nothing against armored units. Besides, if an infantry goes against an enemy on a gun turret, overwhelming them with firepower from their bunker. Without a rocket launcher, it's not realistic to just throw a grenade at them, as you might not hit them, or worse still, fail to make the throw. This is where a rifle grenade comes in. A stick is added behind a grenade, which is then fired from a rifle barrel. Compared to hand-thrown grenades, it flew further and was far more accurate. Later on, it was replaced by grenade launchers. Finally, I'll talk about a common sense in movies. When a grenade lands near the protagonist, using one way or another, he would mitigate the grenade's damage and survive. Could this be real? Well, it is, but not completely so. Movies emphasize on cinematic effects. If this happened on a real battlefield, covering the grenade with an enemy's body or a helmet would either kill or disable the protagonist. He could only hope to survive. Then what should you do when a grenade is thrown at you? Caves are built into trenches to contain grenades, and you can kick it into the cave. Otherwise, if it goes off after you kicked it up, it might harm more people. Unless you're so lucky it happens to fall near your hand, you should immediately get down, take cover and hope for the best. Although you will still be heavily injured after getting down, it's still possible to survive. Grenades' explosions can be strange at times. One may survive a close blast, but another may be killed by a faraway shrapnel. To survive on the battlefield, luck is essential. So let's be thankful for being in this peaceful time, especially those who are always unlucky. If you got naded, just go for the next game. Thanks for watching this episode of Not Just Games. If you liked this video, please subscribe. I'm Joey and I'll see you next time.